is, I know when my brother did it in graphic detail, he said to me that it's one of the hardest ones that he's ever done because it's very different. It's not the kind of concept that you see over and over again in the Gemara. It's very sort of isolated concept. And the whole concept of Eruvin is basically carrying on Shabbos outside of your house. That's really the whole concept of Eruvin. Either carry it, and there's a second concept of Eruvin as well, which is walking over a prescribed amount of meterage. So, for example, if you, there's different domains in terms of, we call it Rosh Hashanah, that's a public domain, where there's a domain where you can't carry it all on Shabbos. That's a completely Torah prohibition to carry. And then you've got what we call a private domain that you're allowed to carry on Shabbos. So the whole concept, obviously, of making an Eruv is so you create a private domain out of the entity that you're in, so that you're able to carry it. That's the basic concept of Eruvin. And we all know that it's very easy here in Joffe because all the Jewish areas have Eruv, so it's quite easy for us to carry. So people almost start forgetting the laws of Eruvin, which is problematic. So if you go on holiday or you go to an area which doesn't have an Eruv, obviously that can create a problem because you don't always know what to do. So what's the whole concept? The whole issue is if you're in a Rosh, what they call a Rosh Hashanah, which is a public domain, and there's a big dispute as to what a public domain is. Suffice to say that it's an area where 600,000 people have access to it in one particular day. Then you can't make an Eruv in that particular area. If you're not allowed to, that's a Torah public domain, and you wouldn't be allowed to make an Eruv. Only an area where you don't have 600,000 people in over a particular day, that would be what it's called a Karmelis. In terms of the Torah, you're allowed to carry in that straight away. You don't even need an Eruv. The rabbis came along and they made a Zera that you can't carry that in the area because it looks a lot like a Rosh Hashanah, and if you're allowed to carry in that area, you come to forget that you're in a Rosh Hashanah as well. So they made a takana that if you're in a Karmelis, you're not allowed to carry unless you've got an Eruv. Just to clear up one of the misconceptions about an Eruv. An Eruv is not the fence that you see going around the suburb. An Eruv is food that you have to have in the area, which is theoretically owned by everybody in the area, which makes it your area, therefore becomes a private domain. So in our area, I think it's in Glenn's brother-in-law's house, because he's the head of the Eruv in the Beth, and he stays at his brother's house. He's got matzahs, a whole box of matzahs there, with 2 matzahs, which technically, if you want to go to his house and eat the matzahs, you're fully entitled to do so if you're a resident of Glen Hazel, because it belongs to the whole community. So I invite anybody who wants to test out the laws of Eruvin to go knock on his door at any time of the day or night and ask him for those matzahs. And he has to give them to you, and he has to let you into his house. Because those matzahs are owned by the entire area. What's his So that's the Eruv. The Eruv is the food. The Eruv is not the mechitzas that creates the private domain. But you can only put the food in to create a private domain once you've got the walls that go around. And there's a whole dispute in the Gemara. It goes through pages and pages as to what creates a proper mechitza. You can put like so what you see very much in Joffe, as you know, you see the 2 poles and the wire that goes across the top, and that's what we call in the Gemara as the Suras of Pesach, which according to most opinions, that's what creates a mechitza, and as long as you have the Suras of Pesach a certain amount of space apart from each other, that creates a valid mechitza. It's one of the most kosher mechitzas that you can have, and that's why when you drive up and down Glen Hazel, or most of Johannesburg, where the Jews living today, you'll see these poles with the wire across, which is what we call the Suras of Pesach. That creates the mechitzas which enable us to put the thing. There's actually quite interesting that there's a big dispute as to what, I mean, there's an opinion, and I think it comes from Rev Eliashiv, that a Rosh Hashanah is actually 600,000 people who live in that particular city. It's not 600,000 people who have access to that particular road or whatever the case may be. So according to him, that's why, according to many people, Manhattan in New York, you can't make an Eruv, because Manhattan in New York has more than 600,000 people that live there. But according to Rev Eliashiv, it's the entire city. And therefore, if you had an Eruv even around Jerusalem, or you had an Eruv going around Johannesburg, it wouldn't be a kosher Eruv because you have more than 600,000 people who live there. We don't paskin like that, because basically if you paskin like that, you would almost not have Eruv in any city in the world. But it's just quite interesting to know that according to Rev Eliashiv, it's a difference between a Doraisa Isur in Shabbos and a straight. It's a very unusual to find that in Shabbos, where there's a dispute between our rabbis that says it's a Doraisa breaking of Shabbos and it's completely mutar in Shabbos. And Eruvin is one of your classic examples where you see that, where according to one posek, you actually carry according to the Torah, you break Shabbos according to the Torah, and according to the other posek, it's 100% mutar and you can do it. So So that's the whole. The other one that I spoke about, which requires an Eruv, is you're not allowed to walk more than 1.2 kilometers approximately out of your area if it's out of a built-up area. So because Johannesburg is a city and it's a built-up area, if you walk on the highway outside of Johannesburg, not towards Pretoria because that's all built up, but say you walk towards Benoni or you walk out of Benoni into a completely arid sort of area, more than 1.2 kilometers you're not allowed to walk. It's important stuff to know if you're on holiday, it's supposed to be hiking and stuff like that. Because that's what we call the Tchum. And if you go outside of the Tchum, then you're not allowed to, you can't walk out of stuff. But you can make an Eruv as well. So if you wanted to make an Eruv, every 1.2 kilometers you put some food, and that creates your new sort of domain, and then you can walk another 1.2 kilometers from there. So that's really, I mean, it's quite interesting that my brother told me a story. He said he's late, someone came to him and said that I've learned the laws of Eruvin backwards, I've learned the Gemara, and I'm ready to pass in a lot. And he said to him, are you still carrying an Eruv here in Jerusalem? And he said, yes, he will go and learn the Masechta again, and you clearly don't know for whatever. So it just shows you that there's a lot of interesting things. I mean, there's a whole question if you rent a block where there's no Eruv, obviously in the city. If you rent a block of apartments and there's another Jew in those apartments, the Gemara didn't want Jews to live with non-Jews effectively at the time. They felt non-Jews were dangerous and there was a lot of criminal behavior from non-Jews. So they said if you're going to live with another non-Jew in an area where there were non-Jews that live, we want to discourage as much as possible. If you're going to live there, you've got to go and rent an Eruv from the non-Jews. You've got to go and pay them for that. And that was their way of discouraging you from doing that effectively. So it's quite interesting. Our times don't always change. At least in this area here, we've got good Jews as our neighbours and we don't have to make any kind of spirit. So that's it in a nutshell. As I say, the Masechta is very interesting. It's very interesting because the Mishnah is an Eruvin of almost every rabbi that talks in the Mishnah called diametrically opposed to each other. So the right rabbi will say it's mutter and the other rabbi will say it's asur, which makes it very interesting that the laws of Eruvin become very much really paskin-like as opposed to these are the direct laws. But as I said, generally the laws of Eruvin are all from the rabbis because if it's a Rishus Rabbi from the Torah, you can't make an Eruv anyway. That's the basic law. So I just want to finish off the Masechta now. And the last part of the Masechta, the very last parak actually is Hamot Tefillah. It's not really Eruvin, it's more about Shabbos. But if you find Tefillah outside of the Eruv, what are you supposed to do? Because you can't leave Tefillah lying on the floor. And it says that you should wear the Tefillah back and you should carry the Tefillah back because you're not allowed to carry out the Eruv. And then it talks about what it's wearing. And then the very last little part of it talks about what's allowed in the temple and what's allowed outside of the temple. Because in the temple they did break Shabbos in certain circumstances on Shabbos. They were allowed to do the sacrifices in very specific circumstances. And the very last part of the Masechta, the very last few lines, we're talking about if the Levim have to play their harp in the temple. You know, they used to play the harp in the temple, and the string of the harp snaps. You know, we're not going to make the knots in Shabbos. But they're busy playing in the temple, and the string of the harp snaps. What are they supposed to do? Because the Levim can't play their music anymore. And it talks about whether you're allowed to tie a bow, whether you're allowed to tie a knot. There's a dispute because the one part of the dispute says that you can't perform a Torah prohibition on Shabbos even in the temple, and the other one says that you can. And effectively, the other one says you can only perform a rabbinic thing in the temple, the other one says you can even perform a Torah thing. And so basically, Rabbi Shimon says tying a bow, which is a drambon, if it's intended to be permanent, it's permitted by the Rabbanan in the temple. So it doesn't matter. Even if a bow you're allowed to tie on Shabbos. So if you're tying your shoelaces, you're not allowed to tie a double knot because that's against the laws of Shabbos. But you can tie a bow because the bow is not permanent and you can pull it out. So bows are almost all opinions on Shabbos you can tie. And that's exactly what he's saying here. So if you're going to tie a bow, even if it's intended to be a permanent, but the fact that it's a bow, you can slip it out very easily. That's the last, that's the shira, the asalida, the chatas, lo sharulera body. But tying a regular knot, which you can't just slip out if you're just pulling it, even if it's a temporary one. It says, which would lead to a chatas obligation because it would be a break of Shabbos. Even if one forgets himself and ties it permanently, is not permitted by the rabbis in the temple. So the last thing is the shira, the asalida, the chatas, lo sharulera body. That's finished for the. So, Hapan Alaf Hamas Tefillah, Hapan Masechet Eruvin. So, Alon finish with me. I'll do the Kaddish, and then I'll do the Hadron, and we'll do the Hadron together. Okay, we'll do the Hadron together, and then I'll do the Kaddish. So, Hadron Alaf Masechet Eruvin, V'Hadra Chalan, Asan Alaf Masechet Eruvin, V'Hadra Chalan, Lo Nisn Shem Minach Masechet Eruvin, La Nisn Shem Minach. لا فألما هيدين بلا بألما العسى يرسل من قناها أثناء الحين ولا بسينة شتهيك رسا من السينة ولا مسيء تهي من لا قضاء علينا باربابا رامي باربابا نحمن باربابا أخي باربابا أبا ماري باربابا راسم باربابا نبي باربابا سرسا باربابا أدا باربابا نارو باربابا رياضنا أثناء الحين وستبعيش رسا بينو وشيوس باربابا يشتغل يعني نحن تأسينو تأمفا بيشتغل لن يودي شماخا ودي ترسل الشماع وإذا فكما نيجي سساكا كيلو يابدي لي أمين بكوكيكا لما أنه يكوش وإلام لو إشكاف تكوديكا كيبان إيساني باروك أشواء أدوائي لدين كيكا أمين سلاف أعير وديما ناس سلاف لفنفع دنوي الحين بأبسينو التوكين ويشتري بيس المدرش التوكين ويشتري كارنوس أنو ماشيمين هاي ماشيمين أنو ماشيمين دي بريس سورة هاي ماشيمين دي بريس أنو أمين هاي أمين أنو أمين مكان سفر هاي أمين أين مكان سفر أنو راتين هاي راتو أنو راتين هاي ولا مباب هاي راتين دي بريس شخص نمار أشوا يبيب فري داي دي بريس شخص نشاي تميم نمار موت وتسوي يمين بني إفراط بعض يرسون من فنفع دنوي الحين إلى بعض بشيء كتابتاني لسيا مسيح سرير Eruvin كين كالأجريني تجميل أسفيل يسكتوس بسفاري مكين وزيسيامام بالموت والأمان يشمر الأسوس والأهيم يسكول تبريس ومترسك بعض الزوز ومنين أمورائيم ومدايش حكمين أمور دي والأسري شلوس سموش كتيرا مكي سري بزيرا سري أدولا وسيسكايا بي شوي فقط شمور عليها بعد توي صدي تشيفسات كيبي يبو يمتا بيوسيكو لفاشنوس خايم ويرث يمين يمينا تسمويلا أشياء بتابط ناي هوز مويتاي ناي بريك سموي باشا kind Mira is still there. And before I started kind of job, I just got to say a big thank you to Mira because she was here for 97% of me finishing to learn the Musefets, and I was away every night, taking out on a Saturday night from 8:15 to 9:15 in the evening. So a big thank you to Mira and the girls for being flexible to allow me to finish the Musefets. So Elvis Kadash and Mira Bob. Amadi du Asis, Vihis Badah, Pasab, Mensayom. ולחצה יעשו לכם כלומר שבבני ככה יושלי ושחל לה ותחת ולבא ומחל חלחלה ובחל מתערעה ולבשר חלחלה ישמעאל עשרי ימית ובריתות ובחוסי לצליה בחיפה ובמחל ובחי לכל בית ישראל ואכלה בזמן קריב מרוב עומד
נהיה שמירה במבוירה לא יודע מה נביא
שמירה בעיה מהיו יסברה כשדבר שכל שלא מתנשא ביסודות ביסודי ביסודות שמדברשה בריתות ואלה בריתות בחסר ושרסות וחסר ונשמצת אמירם דאלמה ואמרו אמן על ישראל ואברנם ועל תלמידיהם ועל כל תלמידי תלמידי מוי על קומן לעסקים ברסה דיברסה הרי די בכל עשר ועשר יעל לכל ולכל שלמה רבה חינה פריסה ורחמים ורחמים והחריפים ומסתני רדפי ובקונם במקדם עבודי ושמיה ואמרו אמן יעל שמרה ומשמיים וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן ויעשה שלום במרמיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן
מה זאת?